Hello and welcome to tonight's baseball wrap-up edition. I got the boys with me here, Tone and Alex from Row 7 and Cardboard and Cracker Jacks, respectively. So we're going to go into our thoughts on the 2020 baseball season. We're going to get into some of the developments that have been going on, especially with the fact that there's a manager who's old enough to be certain people's great-grandfather now on the one side of Chicago. And I find it funny that your old manager is up for Manager of the Year. He pulled the Joe Girardi. And and then we're going to get into what we think the Cubbies are going to do, and then of course all the big news with the Mets in the last few days. But an announcement first: the Big Rican family is growing by one come June 3rd. There is another little one on the way. Alex actually got to meet my son, my youngest now.
Wow!
Last time we were on, but yep, we're due June 3rd. Don't know what it is yet. But there are two things that are being purchased already. The 7-line Army onesie that says Die Hard since 2021, and the Ohio State onesie that says I have a Michigan in my diaper. So that's what's coming up. So first of all, Mr. Tone, you predicted a Tampa Bay Los Angeles Dodgers World Series, and you came within really 27 outs of being right that Tampa was going to win the World Series. Hats off to you, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought I had it for a minute. I really thought I did, but unpredictable things happen, and the Rays shocked the world, and they got there, but they couldn't pull through. But hell of an effort to Randy Arozarena and those guys for putting on a show for not only Tampa Bay, but for the whole country and the whole world, that the Rays were a Cinderella story, and it shows in sports. Never give up when people don't really have a lot of faith in you.
Absolutely. And when Alex and I did the World Series preview episode that we wish we could have had you on, I know there was some scheduling conflicts, but we gave you a shout out then, and I was going to give you one tonight, obviously, with the call on that. But listen, I went Tampa in 7. He went Dodgers in 7. So he got it right in 6. I had to tip my cap to that one. But let's get into the wrap-up of the 2020 season. And I want to start with this question. Election Day was a couple days ago. I know we're still waiting for stuff to be done, but there's an election in baseball that's driving me crazy. How is Mike Trout not a finalist for the American League MVP? Does anyone have an answer?
The blatant disrespect. That's all I have to say.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I don't even think Biden or Trump could get an answer for that one. I think that it's just a mystery to us all. I think Mike Trout, if he's healthy every year, he definitely should be from what we see in the MVP race, and based on what happened this year, I don't get how he's not.
Is this kind of like a little? No, I'm gonna say this at the end too, but during the World Series preview, I said the 100th episode is coming up, and that is going to be the LeBron Jordan debate, the 100th episode. So is this like the LeBron Jordan thing where you just get tired of him being in the MVP conversation every year? Or is this they actually thought some people were better?
I think this is a case where they actually might have thought some people were better, because unlike the Jordan-LeBron debate, who are you actually debating Mike Trout against besides like anybody realistically? Mike Trout is a guy who had a really good year, but a lot of baseball people seen the Angels as a flop, so to speak, in my opinion, under Joe Maddon's first year there. And obviously you don't judge any award based on a team's overall performance, but if anything, I think the MVP award kind of does lean that way. And although Mike Trout had 17 dingers, 46 ribbies, 41 runs, a 280 batting average, and a great glove out there, and rated number 1 amongst fantasy outfielders. It's just, it's hard to see, but I think that a lot of people swayed their vote probably because the Angels didn't have a lot of success, and not only that, they didn't have a lot of success in baseball's worst division.
I understand that. So, Alex, you and I touched on this. Basically, it was on Messenger on Twitter. Do you also think it's Trout? Coma is the wrong word. But do you think it's, basically it's there every year, so they're kind of sick of it? Or do you think guys had better seasons?
No, I think it's because Trout's there every year. But I also think I was actually kind of thinking along the same line as Tones was. The fact that the Angels are not a quality, credible team is kind of docking him in a sense. and it's sad and it's a shame. But I think that's kind of the reason why he kind of got pushed by the wayside, because the Angels were kind of out of the race, probably 30 games in. And after that, Trout was putting up numbers, but it really didn't matter because their team was not advancing in the short season.
Yeah, and I thought about that too, but then I thought about you guys with that reasoning, and Andre Dawson won an MVP on a last place Cubs team. So, and we've had guys on teams that were under 500 win the MVP before. I just couldn't believe that he wasn't there. I absolutely could not. So let me ask you guys this. Outside, your two teams made the playoffs, obviously. Mine has everything going on off the field. So I want to start with you guys. From your respective teams, what are you taking away from 2020 going forward? And Alex, I'm going to start with you because you have the young team of the three of us.
I mean, I think they're primed. They're ready, hopefully, to go, all in for 2021. I don't really know exactly where they're going to be at in terms of spending. I hope they get another quality arm in that rotation, because I know with the likes of Gio Gonzalez not being a quality arm and Dylan Cease kind of being an unknown, you got to get yourself probably a solid 2, a solid 3, just to kind of be that cog in the middle of your rotation. In terms of their offense, I think their offense is right where they need to be. In my personal opinion, and I'm probably jumping ahead, I think Jose Abreu is going to win the American League MVP without a doubt. That's just kind of where I stand with it. So if he can go into 2021 leading this team as kind of their captain on offense, I think they can be right there and compete again, and probably push even farther into the playoffs.
Yeah, I am definitely with you with that. I think the young core that you guys have with Abreu and Luis Robert, and what's the left fielder you don't trust?
Eloy.
With Eloy, with Moncada, you guys are set. Now, yes, you need pitching, but I'd almost look more bullpen than rotation with them. And this is just me personally. I think that with the two studs at the top of that rotation, you're getting, is it Kopech is his last name?
Yeah, Kopech.
You're getting Kopech back this year, who, if I remember correctly, in his little cup of coffee, this dude's got a cannon.
I mean, he throws 99, 100 with ease. It's just kind of the simple fact of we really don't know exactly what we're going to get out of him. Hopefully he is ready to go for 2021, but that fear of the unknown is what's kind of got me teetering a little bit. And that's why I only say, if you can add depth to your pitching rotation, it won't hurt.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody should add pitching depth. Even, my guys learned that the hard way this year. So speaking of adding depth, Tone, the Cubbies, you guys have got some serious questions heading into this offseason. John Lester, who bought how much beer the other night in Chicago?
I think like $152,000 worth.
Oh.
$52,000 worth is something wild. It was in the thousands for sure, but a lot of Chicagoans and Cubs fans in general did get lucky from John Lester. And hey, hats off to John Lester. I loved Lester. He was my favorite Cub. I'm going to miss him like crazy.
So you guys going forward, you have the Chris Bryant question to be answered. You have now, with Lester's option not being picked up, you have some serious rotation questions, along with the questions in the bullpen you had given to me during the season when we spoke. If you were playing Theo Epstein right now, where are you making your biggest, most impactful move?
If I'm Theo Epstein right now, and realistically, he's been against spending as of late for whatever reason, his free agents have gone from the Yu Darvish types to the not exactly exciting types, but bargain bin deals. So if I'm Theo, pitching, Quintana's gone. I could see him going back to the other side of Chicago, perhaps, if not the Angels, perhaps. He's going to go to a team he's done in Chicago. I think he underperformed here. I think he wants to start over. He's gone. John Lester potentially gone. You're looking at a Cubs rotation that's getting thin on veteran pitching. A move that would make a lot of sense to me would be Theo Epstein given cheap money, relatively cheap money. I mean, not cheap money, it's millions of dollars, but a 1-year team-friendly, player-friendly deal to a guy like Corey Kluber, who hasn't had the best of success lately, but a guy who could come into Chicago, be a difference in that rotation, $10 to $12 million, him or a James Paxton type. For that type of deal, coming to Chicago, I think could help the rotation. Although I do think James Paxton has a good chance of landing with the other Chicagoan team as well. But I think they might have their eyes on the prize with Mr. George Springer, and not a lot of people know it. But I think that the Cubs could add a veteran pitcher for sure. And I think depending on what happens, obviously, with a lot of their lineup, a lot of rumors going around, a lot of Chris Bryant talk, a lot of other talk, depending on what happens, it could be a completely brand new Cubs team moving forward. We don't even know who's their closer going into next season. We don't know who 2 or 3 of their starting pitchers are. Chris Bryant's status is up in the air. We don't know if Javier Baez or Anthony Rizzo have maintained their superstar status. There's a lot of questions surrounding this Cubs team, and there's not a lot of answers right now from specifically guys like Theo Epstein, who have voiced that, it might not be too much longer of a ride here. So it's going to be very interesting to see if the Cubs play win now ball or win for later ball this offseason, and that'll be centered around who they target in pitching, if it'll be a guy like Lester to come back, a guy like Kluber, and if they keep Bryant. If they don't keep Bryant, if they don't get a veteran pitcher, I think it's going to be rebuilding for these Cubbies.
I mean, it's not a horrible rebuild if you're going to build around, Rizzo for as long as he's been there, still not a very old guy. I think Javier Baez is a must. I know most Chicagoans don't want to hear this, but I can see them trading Kyle Schwarber. I can see them using him for pitching as opposed to having to pay him in a couple of years because he's a free agent at the end of next year. Same thing with Syndergaard with us. That's why I know who's where. But, yeah, no, I definitely understand. You got the South Side. South Side is the White Sox, right?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. I always get that wrong. So the South Side, these guys they're coming for a pennant. And I think that's why they added Tony La Russa. So let's jump into this conversation because I know, Alex, when you and I talked about it on Twitter, you said you weren't emotionally ready to have this conversation yet. It has been some time. Now, I want to lead you in this way. I like this hire. And here's why I like this hire. He's going to walk in there with 3 World Series rings. He's going to walk in there with a Hall of Fame plaque. And he's been in the game. He's been in the front office in places. He's been around it. I don't think he's going to make these guys play any different. I don't think he's going to make these guys do anything differently than what they're doing. What he's going to bring is that level-headedness in the dugout. Has he started filling out his coaching staff yet?
Not to my knowledge. I've not heard anything. There's probably rumors out there, but I've not really kept up to date as to where they stand on that.
Yeah, well, like you said, as long as it's not Dave Duncan dragging himself out of the retirement home to do it. So I want to go there. Alex, what are your feelings on the hire? And then I'll get the Cubbies side of what they think of it, too, when I go to Tone. But what do you think of the hire?
I've warmed up to it just a tad bit. I really need to see exactly where he goes in terms of his bench coach, pitching coach, and so forth. In terms of it, I've actually read and I actually seen on Twitter, apparently some of the players have not spoken with Tony La Russa yet, which I know it's still relatively new. Still, we're kind of in the midst of COVID and all that stuff like that. But a quick phone call to kind of touch base with the likes of your Tim Andersons, Dallas Keuchel, Giolito to kind of say, hey, ready to take this to, the point where we're contenders, not pretenders anymore, potentially World Series competitors. So I've kind of warmed up to it. I'm a little kind of worried. The only thing is when's the last time he coached? Like 2010, 2011, 2012?
He walked off with the championship in 2011.
So 2011. So that's the only thing that's kind of on my mind. Yes, I know he's definitely got the credentials. He's got the World Series rings. He's got the Hall of Fame plaque. I'm hoping that he can take him to the promised land. That's kind of really where I stand on it.
Okay, and listen, as a White Sox fan, I get it. I don't know how I would feel if the Mets did the same thing, bringing in that guy, but I think his ties to the White Sox from when he started, granted he was hired the year I was born. God, I'm old. So I get it, and I like the full circle thing with him, but I like the hire. I mean, like you said, Rick Renteria is a different animal than Tony La Russa, and I think that's one of the things that may have held the White Sox back a little bit. So to bring in this guy, and let's see how he fills out his staff.
I'm really hoping that he kind of, and this is not to indict him by any means, but I'm hoping that he brings in a couple maybe Latin American coaches who can kind of connect with some of these guys who speak specifically Spanish. Obviously, you got a handful of Cuban guys on here who probably know a little bit of English, but they're probably more so comfortable with the Spanish thing. So, if anything, that would only benefit him in the long run, essentially.
Look for Joe McEwen to be on that staff too. That was one of La Russa's favorites.
I could definitely see it happening.
So, Tone, not being a White Sox fan, so you're like an outsider like me. What did you think when you saw that the Chicago White Sox brought back 76-year-old Tony La Russa to be their manager?
When I first heard the news, I had to rub my eyes twice and go, is this real life a little bit? Because he is very old and he hasn't coached baseball in a very, very long time. And even a lot of White Sox fans that I know didn't really believe the rumors the first day or two, that Tony La Russa was rumored to be for the Chicago White Sox job. And I'm going to say something real quick, and then I'll dissect more into La Russa. But when I looked at this White Sox job, one name screamed out louder to me than the other names, and that was Bruce Bochy. I think that Bruce Bochy would have been a tremendous fit for the White Sox job because he's not only like La Russa, he won 3 championships. He's a wildly veteran. He's a competitive guy. He's only been out of baseball for 1 year. And he's looking to come back. He is looking to come back. So it's a fresher guy, a guy with more knowledge of more recent baseball, and a guy who connects to the game a little better coaching from 2019 versus Tony La Russa's 2011 exit appearance. And he has just as many managerial championships to prove it now. Where the two comes different is Tony La Russa is one of those iconic figures. He's a game changer for the South Side in Chicago. In fact, he's going to sell tickets. If the COVID permitting, the name Tony La Russa does a lot more than the name Bruce Bochy in terms of marketing, in terms of revenue for the team. It's not only a thing that's a move for the team, but it's a move for the Chicago White Sox organization in terms of money, in my opinion. I do like the move in the long haul for them. I think it brings them competitiveness. I think it gives them that competitive edge that Ricky Renteria didn't have. I love Ricky, but the thing with Ricky Renteria is he's a perfect rebuild guy. And then, once you're through that rebuild, thanks for your services. We'll send you a ring if we win one. Yeah, he'll get his shot maybe perhaps somewhere else. But on La Russa himself, I think it's going to pay dividends for the White Sox in the long run. I don't know if they get a championship because of it. I think that Bruce Bochy would have brought them one. I don't know if La Russa could. He's a little out of touch with baseball. It's been a while. It's been a long time. We'll see. I do think they play competitive. I don't know if La Russa is a guy to get him to a championship, though.
It's good. And listen, this could go either way. I mean, it depends how the talent reacts to him. It depends, like you said, it depends on the coaching staff. Another name to look for, Carlos Beltran. He's got to get back in the game somehow. And to be honest with you, we'll save my boys for the end just because they've been the ones that have been throwing everything at people in the last few days. If I'm Steve Cohen, I don't fire Luis Rojas. Not with his experience with that entire roster. So we'll leave that for the end. And yes, I'm going to stick my boys on the end because they're my boys. All right, so let's get into the awards now, which start on Monday, which is why I was hoping to get you guys on here before then. I know they usually start with Manager of the Year, but we'll do that last. So the finalists for the National League MVP, Mookie Betts of the champion Dodgers, Freddie Freeman of the Braves, and Manny Machado of the Padres. I'm going to start with my pick, and it's a little heartstring. It's a little, even though I can't stand this team, I go with Freddie Freeman, and here's why. He did what he did, and he beat COVID. This is the MVP of the 2020 season if there ever was one. Plus, he's a Gold Glove caliber first baseman. He has been doing this for years. How long has Freddie Freeman been around? He's still not 30 yet. Or if he's not, he's just there.
He's not 30 yet?
I don't think he is.
Oh, man.
I think he's like 29 through 31 range. He's either right around there, he might be it, but he's young. He's still very young.
Yeah, I mean, this dude, he is the How old is
He just turned 31.
Okay, so
September.
he's still very young, but he's been around forever. So what he's done over his career, and I know this isn't a career award, what he has done over his career has warranted this at least once before. But this year, overcoming COVID and leading that Braves team, which went through a ton of injury, especially on the pitching staff, through a playoff appearance and really almost to a World Series, Freddie Freeman's my guy in the National League. So, Tone, you're the other National League guy. I'm going to go to you second. Out of those three, who gets your vote?
Out of those three, it's a very tough race. We've seen Manny Machado bring an element to the Padres this year that he didn't bring them last year, and that was a competitive, wildly vet who's going to give them good at-bats. I don't go with Machado, though. Freddie Freeman, he's a great case. I'd like that COVID point you make. That is a very good point. He had COVID. He overcame it. He hit 341, I believe, with 13 homers and almost 50 ribbies, if not maybe north of 50 ribbies. And he was actually rated the top first baseman by ESPN. But I am going with Mookie Betts here, and here's why. He's a guy in a new city, a new town. Los Angeles is a choking baseball team usually. All they do is lose the big game. They lose in the playoffs. Mookie Betts comes to town. What happens? They win, and I know you're technically not supposed to decipher MVP off a postseason, but in a 60-game season, I think you kind of have to almost, because a lot could change in those 162 games. So the more games, I think the more judgmental you got to be. And Mookie Betts has reached double digits in stolen bases, RBIs, home runs, runs, and he batted 292. He almost hit 300. So he had a great year. He had an incredible year in his first year in LA, and he's a real winner as he got that fat new contract too. So he's living good. He gets the last laugh in Boston, but hey, they could use their money on a cheater, I guess. Oh, Alex Cora, I'm sorry.
Well, and let's not forget Mookie Betts has now 2 of the last 3 years, gotten us free tacos from Taco Bell.
Hey.
Alex, who you got in the National League?
I'm gonna ride with Tones on this one. I love your case on Freddie Freeman. I think he's a fantastic player, and I know you don't like him, so that says something about for you saying an Atlanta Brave player, your MVP. You know that's speaking volumes right there. But I got to ride with Mookie for what he did with the Dodgers. Obviously, kind of taking him to the promised land, having quite the solid season. But his playoff performance, he made some outstanding defensive plays and clutch hitting. Yeah. You know, that does it for me right there. But I'm kind of surprised that Fernando Tatis didn't get any love. He had a phenomenal season too.
He did. He really did. I think in the National League this year it was tough to round it down to 3. And of course, they always do 3. But no, I agree with you. Tatis had a great year. Machado had a great year too. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Manny Machado, any one of the 3 of us. But the thing is, if you put Machado's year next to even Tatis's year, I don't think Machado belongs in the top 3, me personally.
I would flip-flop them personally.
I would too. I would put Tatis in there with them.
Me as well.
So let's hop to the American League, where the 3 finalists, Jose Abreu from the Chicago White Sox, DJ LeMahieu from the Yankees, and in my opinion, a dark horse, and Jose Ramirez from the Cleveland Indians. So, Alex, I don't know if we're going to even go to you for this because we've already heard who you think. No, I'm kidding. Make your case for your boy.
No, I mean, he had a fantastic season. Obviously, 60 games, but he made every one of those 60 games count. I can't tell you what he did in terms of the amount of home runs he hit against the Cubs because it was too many to count, and that's no shot at the Cubs by any means. But he had his way with them for whatever reason. It could have been that little knot that he had in his beard. I don't know if you guys caught that. He had like a little kind of goatee, little beard thing going on. But either way, he just had a phenomenal 2020 season, and it's just a testament to the quality player that he is, even though he is kind of creeping up into the mid-30s. So I'm hoping that he can take that into 2021. But 2020, he's running away with my MVP for the American League.
I forgot he was that old.
Yeah, he's 33, 34 maybe, probably.
Oh, that's right. He defected late. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Tone, where are you going in the American League, sir?
I do agree there. I'm going with Jose Abreu as well because I've seen firsthand what he does to, balls that are hard to hit. He hit a lot of home runs against the Cubs team that gave him some tough pitches to hit. Jose Abreu had a good year. He was a difference maker on the south side of Chicago, and he was the main reason why they propelled the way they did in the winning column. And DJ LeMahieu, sure, he may have almost hit 370, which is incredible, but his other stats just don't get the job done for an MVP worthy candidate, in my opinion. And honestly, one guy, obviously, he doesn't get the at bats or the love because he's in a smaller market, and he obviously doesn't get an MVP chance because he just didn't play the fair share of games. I think a Jose Abreu or Randy Arozarena argument would be proper if Arozarena were to play and get a lot of at-bats from game one of the year, obviously. But out of these guys, hats off, Jose Abreu. He's earned it. He's done a lot for the White Sox in general as well, not only on the field. He's been the glue to their clubhouse. He's a guy a lot of White Sox fans turned on and said they could succeed with him gone, but they gave him the money. Some Sox fans weren't happy. He proved them wrong. Hats off to Jose Abreu. He's a hell of a first baseman.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you, but I'm going to go in a different direction. And part of this is love for my other home. But I'm going to go with Jose Ramirez because one thing Abreu and LeMahieu had were consistent offensive performers around him. Not saying they didn't make themselves stand out, but they had consistency around them. Francisco Lindor was not good other than maybe 10 games all year. You didn't get Carlos Santana didn't hit above the Mendoza line.
Oof.
Roberto Perez is a defensive catcher, obviously winning another Gold Glove. You had a young kid who wasn't known for his bat at second base win another Gold Glove. And the Indians made the playoffs. Jose Ramirez carried that team to a playoff appearance again. Now, yes, Franmil Reyes was very good, but he wasn't very good for all 60 games. This dude brought it every single day, and he swaps positions. He plays second, he plays third. He still hits nearly 300. In, 2018, he was the third baseman ever to go 30-30. So this guy brings all facets to the game. As amazing as much I love watching Abreu play, I got to give the nod to Jose Ramirez in this one just because of the circumstances around him and what he had to deal with all season with Cleveland having really great pitching, mediocre offense.
Fair point.
So now we're going to jump to the Cy Young, and we're going to go to the National League first. Tony, you want to tell me why it's Yu Darvish?
I mean, why wouldn't it be Yu Darvish? No, there's a lot of good candidates for sure in the NL, but I like Darvish because he had – I know that last season doesn't count, but from last July to the end of this season, he's clearly been the best pitcher in the National League based on statistics. And this year, he was 8-3 with 93 strikeouts, a 2 ERA, and .96 WHIP. That's downright incredible. You factor in last year since July, and his numbers are just the best in the business. I see your little sour grin right there, my man, but nobody competes with Darvish since last July in the NL. I go with Yu Darvish because he made a difference maker for the Cubs. And let's be honest, he was the only guy. I mean, Kyle Hendricks you trust, obviously, but besides Kyle Hendricks, this year, Yu Darvish is the only other guy that was a reliable, decent outing every time out for this Cubs team. And you had the most confidence in Yu this year over Kyle Hendricks. Now, what I will say is I'll be interested to see with fans back, and I mean, that's fans permitted. I guess we never know what's going to happen. We don't even know if we'll have baseball necessarily. You never know how this could go. But if we do have baseball, if we do have fans, it'll be interesting to see if Yu Darvish could reciprocate his success, because a lot of people think maybe he had success without fans. We'll see.
Alex, now the finalists, I made the joke because I knew he was going to go with Darvish. The finalists in the National League, Yu Darvish of the Cubs, Trevor Bauer of the Cincinnati Reds, and my boy.
All deserving, by the way. All deserving.
Defending Cy Young Award winner and Jacob deGrom of the New York Mets. Alex, we like.
This is a toss-up right here because all three of them are definitely qualified candidates without a doubt. If I had to pick, though, man, sleeper right here. I'm going Trevor Bauer. What he did with the Reds, because the Reds were, I kind of picked the Reds to be, to shock the world in 2020, not necessarily maybe, win the World Series or go to the World Series, but make some noise in the NL Central, which really didn't do a whole lot for me this past season because the Cubs were a quality team, but the Cardinals, the Brewers, Pittsburgh, and so forth just kind of all muddled and were not stellar by any means. So for him to kind of carry that team, I probably got to give a little bit of credit to Trevor Bauer. If I had to pick a guy, I'm riding with him, but all three of them are definitely qualified. And I know, Mike, where you're going, so give it to us.
Yeah, I'm going with Jacob deGrom. Obviously, his numbers as well as the other guys, phenomenal this season. 12 game starts. Here's a question: how many pitchers in the major league struck out 100 batters this year?
One.
Jacob deGrom, 104 in 68 innings pitched. That's an insane number.
That is, yeah, that's incredible.
He whiffed 14 twice this year. He would have been better than 4-2 had the Met bullpen not been almost as bad as Philadelphia's. On top of that, you add the 2.6 WAR. You add the WHIP, which was below 90.
It was 0.86. I just looked it up.
Yeah, a 0.86 WHIP, a 2.6 WAR, the only pitcher over 100 strikeouts for the season. And here's the stat that everyone was talking about toward the end of the year. Trevor Bauer and Yu Darvish faced the three worst offenses in the National League. deGrom had to face the three best. And he went 4-2 with a 2.38, 104 strikeouts, and a 0.86 WHIP. He has been the pitcher that has made it about the analytics, and the analytics, unfortunately, are on his side. Now, I made the face when you were talking about Darvish. He has been outstanding since last July. All kidding aside. I love Trevor Bauer. I have loved Trevor Bauer since he was in Cleveland. The only thing I didn't like about Bauer in Cleveland was when he ripped his finger working on the stupid drone in the playoffs. deGrom has done this now 3 years in a row. I mean, if it's me, I got somebody on Facebook just put absolutely deGrom. Honestly, I like deGrom. I think Trevor Bauer is going to win the Cy Young Award because he did pitch Cincinnati into the playoffs, and he was as dominant as anybody could be down the stretch. But if I'm making an argument for somebody, it's Jacob deGrom. I mean, you're talking about a dude. I watched him do things differently this year, and then I'll get on to the next award, obviously, because I don't want to sit here and I could run my mouth about him all night. When you're throwing a fastball at 100, a slider at 95, and a changeup at 91, and guys like Freddie Freeman are going, I can't hit that. There's not many dudes that do that to the quality major league hitters year in and year out, and he's done it for the last 3 years, and he did it at a big level this year. All right, so we got MVP down. We got Cy Young down. So let's go to award number 3. And that is the American League and National League Rookie of the Year Award. I got to look it back up who the finalists were. Give me 1 second, guys.
Wait, did you do the AL Cy Young?
Oh, no, I didn't. AL Cy Young. Holy cow. Sorry, guys.
He forgot, after talking about Darvish and deGrom, you could forget sometimes about those AL pitchers.
I really don't know why.
Do we really need to talk about it? This should be unanimous.
Yeah. I'd like to hear the finalists, but it is unanimous for sure. I mean,
Shane Bieber, Kenta Maeda, and Hyunjin Ryu. Can we talk over this? And it's Shane Bieber?
Okay. Unanimous.
I'm gonna try and make a case for Hyunjin Ryu. No, I can't. No, it's Shane Bieber. It's Shane Bieber. There's no case to be made.
I would have loved to hear your case, Tones. I would have loved to hear it.
My only case that I could make is he brought me to second place in fantasy baseball.
But yeah, let's throw this out there. Last pitcher to win the Triple Crown in all of Major League Baseball was Johan Santana, 2006. Listen, I said this before the season. I said it to friends of mine in Cleveland. When they traded Corey Kluber, I was asked, who is the Indians' ace? I went, Shane Bieber. And he's going to be nasty. And then, Alex, you and I got into it. Just how good he was. He had the bump in the road in the playoffs. So that's going to stick with him. But yeah, no, Shane Bieber is going to be the unanimous Cy Young Award winner. And be honest with you, I would have put him in the MVP race over DJ LeMahieu.
I could see that.
Because that
100%.
Cleveland was a two-headed monster. Jose Ramirez and Shane Bieber all season.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that for sure.
Uh-oh, somebody hit me on Twitter. What's this?
That's me. I just gave you a shout out. I said,
Okay, thank you.
come join the fun. Come join the fun. You know, why not?
That is your brother.
My brother's watching, actually. He's watching right now. He was actually in the WWE SmackDown Thunderdome tonight for a little
Was
bit.
he really?
Yeah, he was. He was. It was hard. There's a lot of people, a lot of videos, but I think I've seen him maybe. So it's kind of cool.
That is pretty cool. All right. So, 2020 Rookie of the Year finalists, National League. We got the kid from Philadelphia. Let me get in here and look at this here. Come on, come on, come on.
We
There's
got the Rican chants going again.
There's your brother. All right, so actually let's go to the AL. It's the Lewis kid from the and I feel so bad that when the Mets don't have a rookie, I don't pay attention to the Rookie of the Year. And I have the Pete Alonso shirt on right now. So Rookie of the Year finalists this year. Oh, come on. No, NBC picked Kyle Lewis from Seattle to win it. I didn't watch him much, so I don't.
He was good this year. Kyle Lewis was Seattle didn't really play too much competitive ball, but he was the lone bright spot, or one of the lone bright spots, at least for the Mariners, especially after they made some trades. But Kyle Lewis, he hit 262, 11 homers, 5 steals, 28 ribbies, 37 runs. A lot of that coming front-loaded in the first 20 to 30 games of the year, though.
Yeah, no, I had heard your brother just hit me on Facebook too, by the way.
He's the wild one.
So we got him, and of course we have the man-child, as it were, Luis Robert from the White Sox. And who was the third one? Oh, come on. I feel so unprepared. Because you go to a spot on AL MVP, okay. And also Cy Young, yep. Cy Young. All right, so in the American League, it's Kyle Lewis, Will Castro from Detroit, and Luis Robert. Alex, you want to take this?
You know where I'm going. I mean, and this is not an indictment on anybody else because I really don't keep up with Seattle. You know, I know they got some up and coming players who could be credible down the road, but the fact that they were pretty much out of the playoffs after 20 games couldn't really give them any love. The fact that Luis Roberts in there, and I know he won what award did he win the other day? I forgot. Gold Glove, right?
I believe so. I didn't honestly, and I'm really bad about this because I've been working on the Buckeye stuff and the Brown stuff. But if it's not the awards I was going to get into tonight, I wasn't really paying attention.
You're good.
Personally, I think the Mets need such a bad defensive upgrade that Gold Glove didn't matter to me. But no, it was the kid from Seattle, Luis Robert, and
You said somebody from Detroit?
Will Castro from Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact of what Luis did, and I know he kind of struggled as the season started, just to kind of get acclimated with the pitching, but kind of what he did down the road, and obviously what he did out there with his glove, I think he takes it with ease for me. Yeah,
and actually, it wasn't Castro; it was Christian Javier from Houston.
Oh, okay.
But no, and I'm going Luis Robert too. The year he had to help carry the White Sox to a playoff spot was huge for me. Tone, are you going the same way we are?
Yeah, actually, the kid from Detroit had an incredible year, so I'm shocked that they actually didn't decide to put him in the competition because he would have been a fun one to talk about for sure. But the thing that Luis Robert did this year on the South Side was pretty special. His average was a little low. That's why I will give it to Kyle Lewis overall, because their numbers are kind of similar. But Kyle Lewis has actually batted about 30 points higher, and I think that's a difference maker there. I do give Robert the advantage in fact that the White Sox were a very successful team compared to what the Mariners were. But at the end of the day, Kyle Lewis had a much higher average, the same amount of homers, near the same RBIs and runs, but he did have less steals. It's really a toss-up. Either one of these guys deserve it for sure. I don't think that Christian Javier's he was hurt a little bit this year. He was off this year. I don't think he pitched enough, quite honestly, to even be in the hat for Rookie of the Year. I think it's between the other two. I'd lean Lewis. Either way, though, I could see it going.
All right. So the NL finalists, Alec Bohm of the Phillies, Jake Cronenworth of San Diego, and Devin Williams from Milwaukee. Now, having watched at one of these guys, man, Alec Bohm's going to be a thorn in the Mets side for years. He can play. Good third baseman, good glove, and his bat started to come around. But I'm going to have to give it to the kid in Milwaukee, Williams. Listen, in order to be a successful pitcher in that ballpark, you've got to be able to bring it. And he was really good all year. Is some of my anti-Philly bias coming in? Probably. But I like Williams to win the Rookie of the Year. I think he was the most consistent rookie in the National League. And Cronenworth's in such a great lineup that they had to pitch to him. So, yeah, Alex, what do you like in the National League?
I'm going with Devin Williams as well. He's a reliever, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The fact that, and this is just kind of a testament to exactly the caliber of pitcher that he is. The fact that the Brewers were considering trading Josh Hader kind of spoke volumes as to why I think that Williams is the real deal for Milwaukee. And as you said, I've been to Milwaukee on several occasions to go see them play the Cubs and so forth, and it is a tough park to pitch in because the ball carries with ease in that stadium. So I'm riding with Williams on this one.
What about you, Tom?
No, I'm not going to ride with Williams, although he had an incredible year. He had a lot of good stuff on that mound. I'm going to use Big Rican, my friend. I'm going to use your own words against you here. He faced a lot of easy hitting competition throughout the year, so that could hinder in his statistics potentially. And not only that, to me, we all know in these type of awards, we see it firsthand with MVP, we see it with Rookie of the Year. For whatever reason, I mean, we know the reason because they play every day, but they do prefer the hitters to get these awards. As much of a great year as Devin had, I'm going to go with Bohm. I honestly don't think Cronenworth even had that good of a year besides his average being pretty respectable. He only had a couple of homers, a couple of stolen bases. I kind of feel like he was an add-on because they needed three guys. I think they're in a 60-game season, you're not going to see as much rookies as you do usually because you don't get a lot of the backloaded June, July, August call-ups or whatnot. I think Bohm, his high average over 330, he had a good year and he's only going to get better. Brewers pitcher, that kid, great guy. He's one to watch for sure, but I think I'm going to go with Alec Bohm here.
Okay. So let's hit the managers of the year before we dive into a little bit of hot stove, and then I want to talk to you guys about my boys. American League. Could Rick Renteria be the second manager in the last 15 years to win the manager of the year and get fired in the same season? Alex?
I could see it happen. I could definitely see it happen. I mean, obviously, the White Sox were pegged to be at that 30-30 mark, or just hovering right around it. So the fact he kind of took them to the promised land and they made the playoffs and were somewhat competitive in the playoffs when they weren't expected to get there, I could definitely see him winning. But I mean, it's kind of like on a sour note because he no longer has a job.
No, I agree, and I think he's the dark horse candidate. To be honest with you. Charlie Montoyo getting the Toronto Blue Jays to the playoffs this year with that young core, I think they have a better shot. But honestly, how do you not give Manager of the Year to Kevin Cash?
Yeah, I mean that's really my go-to guy.
The World Series. How do you not give Kevin Cash Manager of the Year? Tone, are you on the same with us, or do you like one of the other guys?
I like Kevin Cash. I mean, with the little budget that the Rays have to work with, too, it almost seems like as soon as the Rays do get a good player or a decent star, they have to leave because they can't afford him. We've seen that with Tommy Pham. He was a one and done there. The Rays find ways to win under Kevin Cash. He's incredible. They made the World Series. I look forward to watching him in Tampa for a lot of years to come. I think the Rays, Kevin Cash deserves it. Although Ricky did a great job. You know, Ricky had a good year. He is honestly honorable mention for sure.
No, I agree. Cash seems to be the guy who's going to get it. I just think it'd be funny if Renteria won it and then lost his job. National League. Tone, I'm going to start with you. Finalists are David Ross, Jace Tingler from San Diego, and of course, Donnie Baseball himself, Don Mattingly with the Marlins.
Yeah, David Ross. You could scratch him off the list. I'm not going to say my feelings right now because I think I'd get kicked out of the Big Rican booth. But David Ross, no, definitely not deserving. He didn't do anything for this Cubs team. In fact, it underperformed Joe Madden Cubs teams on many levels. Something that Cubs fans said, "Oh, this guy's going to come in and fix right away." They had an early exit to the Marlins. I do think it's a good race between Donnie Baseball and Jace Tingler. I'm going with Donnie Baseball because that Marlins roster, the COVID they battled, they had to do so much things and make a lot happen. And they won a playoff series against the Cubs. They played some good competitive ball this year. In fact, Miami fans have a lot to look forward to. I'm going with Donnie Baseball.
61 players used in 60 games.
COVID.
Because of COVID.
The COVID team.
Yep. Alex, what do you think?
Donnie Baseball, 100%. The fact that he somehow rallied the troops and they got their act together and they beat COVID and became a quality team to actually make the playoffs and win a playoff series. Hands down, right there.
Donnie Baseball. And listen, you're talking about a guy who helped build the world champions. And because his players underperformed, didn't get a chance to stay in LA through when they won a title. You know what? I loved him since it's when he was a player, even though I'm a Hernandez guy. That was the big thing in New York then. But yeah, Donnie Baseball, I think, will win the National League Manager of the Year, and I think he should win it in a walk. So there's our award picks, everybody. So let's get into some hot stove. And Alex, I teased a trade that has been rumored in New York for the last couple of weeks. So I want you guys to put your GM hat on. And this is the move that people on Twitter and rumblings in New York have been talking about. The New York Mets send Brandon Nimmo, Ahmed Rosario, J.D. Davis, and Ronnie Mauricio, their top minor leaguer, to the Cleveland Indians for Francisco Lindor. And that is contingent upon Lindor signing a long-term contract. If you are the GM of the Cleveland Indians and you are getting a good glove shortstop who can hit, an outfielder who can play well and hit left-handed, an outfielder, infielder who's got a good bat, and a kid you can build around for the future, are you making that deal? Knowing he's not staying. I know Tone's looking at me like he wants Lindor to come to the north side.
Are you asking both of us right now, or just?
I'm asking both of you guys.
I think that this is a good trade for both teams. I think it's been apparent that the Indians have been ready to move on from Lindor, and I think that the Mets have kind of needed that superstar figure in recent. I mean, they have Pete Alonso, and he's their Batman, that's for sure. But they could use a guy who's, been around the league and bring some attention to the Mets and bring some attention, take some thunder from the Yankees. Who would do that? Francisco Lindor would do that. And they give up some good pieces, sure. But if you could lock a guy like that into a long-term contract, and on the Indian side of the ball, they got Jose Ramirez. They have their superstar. Why not get good depth? Why not get a good top prospect? We've seen them kind of doing that lately in this league. They've been trading good players. They've been getting better prospects. So they've traded the guys like Clevenger. They've traded the Bowers of the world. They got rid of some other guys here and there. I think it's going to be a good trade for both ends, if it's possible. That's a lot of moving parts. That's a lot for both GMs to come to terms with.
Well, I don't know if you saw, Tone, but Steve Cohen, within an hour of taking over as the majority owner of the New York Mets, fired everybody. They're gone.
Yep.
Manaea, all of them. See ya. Sandy Alderson has taken over as the president of the team. Of course, he was the GM of the Mets, and he built that 2015 championship. He drafted Pete Alonso and Dom Smith and Nimmo and brought in Syndergaard and all those boys. So he knows the franchise. He knows the minor league system. The thing the Mets now have is an owner who wasn't affected by COVID. Steve Cohen wrote a check for $2.4 billion for this team, and he still got 14.6 in the bank. Exactly.
It's just a couple dollars to spend.
The guy spent like $11 million on some kind of wire-looking sculpture. He's good, and he grew up a Met fan, by the way. So now he's playing fantasy baseball like you boys, but he's doing it with money and players. So ESPN went through and did what each team can or should do in the offseason. There wasn't a whole lot until you got to the Mets because of COVID. They're the only ownership change. So I want to know what you think of this, if they were able to pull this off. What they're predicting they're going to do is bring in James McCann, who was catcher with Chicago, George Springer, who's originally from Connecticut and lives in the area still, re-signing Marcus Stroman, and signing John Lester to pitch out of the back of the rotation. If the Mets are, and of course the Lindor trade, if the Mets can go into 2021 with a healthy DeGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman, David Peterson, the rookie who came up this year and pitched really well, and John Lester out of the 5 to go with, if they make the trade for Lindor, Springer's playing center field, Conforto in the outfield. I mean, if he's able to do this, are we looking at all the pundits saying the odds-on favorite to win the World Series in 2021 is the Mets, or are we still looking at the Dodgers?
That's a tough call. I mean, I'd still lean Dodgers, although I do like the Mets' chances. I'd like to see some games. You align these superstar teams, and a lot of the time they're really good. But we've seen it before in cases like the Philadelphia Eagles dream team back in the day, I think. That kind of fell apart. When you get these dream teams assembled, you'd like to see some streamlined success a little bit before, in my opinion, proclaiming them the favorites. I'd lean the Dodgers a little bit, although, man, you named a hell of a lot of star power for the Mets that they would possibly get right there.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, my favorite part of that 2015 World Series was after Cespedes fouled the ball off his leg, 8 of the 9 guys on the field all made their major league debut at the Mets. They all came up through the system. So I am a purist. I'm also a Met fan who's had to deal with Yankee fans for years going, oh, we're going to buy another title. So there's that. But, Alex, I want to ask you from this point of view. Putting that mix together and the guys we're talking about, the Lindor, the Springer, I don't know much about James McCann. Is it a combustible clubhouse or could it be a harmonious clubhouse?
Oh, I think it definitely could be harmonious. I don't think any one of those guys really have necessarily an ego that would kind of break that team apart. So it's there. You got a good chance that gel would come together and it would definitely work. Going back to what you said earlier, who would I go with between the Dodgers and the Mets? I probably would lean slightly on the Dodgers, but I would need to see something out of pitching from them in terms of kind of getting somebody behind Kershaw and behind Buehler. And like we've talked about the other day, Urias is going to probably be a bullpen guy now because I don't trust Kenley Jensen. So if they do something on that end, probably going to lean with them a little bit still. But if they don't, I got to ride with the Mets because they're going to be stacked and they got money to spend.
Here's the other thing too, and believe it or not, I'm a big believer in the chemistry part of it. So I would lean Dodgers too right now. I would have to see how they gelled, but I will tell you this: that'd be some series.
Oh yeah,
That would be. I mean, you're talking marquee pitching matchups every night. I believe Urias should be the closer for the Dodgers from now on. Kenley Jansen is an absolute dumpster fire. But yeah, no. Listen, I'm thinking big picture here with the amount of money this guy's got and the amount of things that they can do because they weren't impacted. The other thing is this: the first name being mentioned to be the new Mets GM is Chris Antonetti from the Cleveland Indians. Which, if you look what he's done, he has built a championship contender, but he's done it without a lot of cash flow. So this would be a way for him to get it that way. Bear with me just 1 second, because Anchor shuts you off after 58 minutes.
oh,
So I got to stop that, save it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
that's really interesting. I didn't hear anything about George Springer going to the East Coast. I mean, I knew he was from Connecticut, but I didn't hear him going to the Mets.
They're going to be in on him, and they're
Okay.
going to be in on everybody. But he's from the area. One thing that the Mets have done the last few years, if you notice, they've gotten a lot of guys from the area. Bringing in Joe Panic a couple years ago in 19, bringing in Marcus Stroman. As I'm starting the recording again. So we started the second half of the recording, and Alex asked a great question. He hadn't heard anything about George Springer to the Mets, and I was basically filling him in saying, Springer's from the area, but the Mets have really looked at bringing in guys from the area, starting way back with Steven Matz, and then in 19 or 18, you bring in Todd Frazier, you bring in Joe Panic, you bring in Stroman. It's just them kind of putting the footprint out there a little bit more. The Mets are going to be, for the first time in a long time, in on every free agent. That's my hope, is that it's him, because I really want a center fielder, because I need Dominic Smith to play every day, and the Mets won't move Pete Alonso to third, so I need Dominic Smith in left field. Because I would move Alonso to third, I'd let Dom Smith play first base every day. So let's get to hot stove for your teams. Tone, you mentioned it. Your boys, you think, need some serious pitching help. Your bats, I think, are going to be there. You still have Hayward. You still have Bryant, at least for this year. You still have Schwarber. You still have Rizzo. How much was Rizzo's option that was picked up for?
I think it was 21 or 22 in that ballpark, if I'm not mistaken.
So they're paying Anthony Rizzo like the franchise guy he is.
Right.
So the Cubs offensively have a great core coming back. If you had one guy that you could sign, let's open the checkbook for one guy. Who is it?
One guy. I mean, are we being realistic? Like, do you want me to be realistic with this answer, or am I just dreaming of one guy this offseason who would come to the Cubs?
Tell you what, let's do both. Give me your dream free agent and give me the guy you think they're going to go get.
The guy I think they're going to go get, I'm going to kind of align with one of the pitchers I named earlier, perhaps. In fact, I think that they could maybe go get a James Paxton, or I think they could maybe go get a Corey Kluber if they want to shore up that rotation, give him a 1 year and give him some money and whatnot. But incredibly so, I think if the Cubs really, really obviously wanted, a guy, unrealistic, but Trevor Bauer would obviously be an incredible piece for the Cubs in their rotation, because obviously John Lester leaving, and we named Jose Quintana leaving. They have a couple pitching gap holes to fill there. And honestly, I think that I've said it earlier, I've said it now. The Cubs and their management, they're very cheap lately. I don't see them signing a big free agent. But if they do, I hope it's a pitcher, and I hope it's either Kluber, Paxton, or another veteran.
Okay. Alex, you guys are a young core offensively. Good top of the rotation. Questions in the bullpen, if I remember correctly, our conversation before. So same question. One dream free agent, one you think they'll actually go get.
I mean, Not that they really need him because there's an abundance of talent in the outfield, but I would like to see him go after George Springer. I know there's really no realistic place to put him, but you have a defensive liability in left field with Eloy. I mean, outside of him playing DH every day, that's the only way you can get around it. So I guess that would be my dream one. But my realistic one, he kind of came to bite us in the butt a little bit in the playoffs. But Liam Hendrick from the A's, I know he's a free agent, early 30s, solid bullpen piece, potentially a closer. So he would be somebody who I think the White Sox should definitely be all in on.
Okay. I'm going to go to the same thing with myself. The dream free agent is Trevor Bauer. I have been a Met fan my whole life, and the Mets historically have been about their pitching. So to have a top of the rotation of Jacob deGrom and Trevor Bauer, to move Syndergaard back to the 3, to move, David Peterson to the 4, and then you fill in the 5 with either Matz or Stroman or Seth Lugo, who was really good. That would be my dream free agent. Honestly, I really do believe they're going to be in on George Springer because the Mets need a center fielder and a leadoff man, and Springer can do both in spades. He's still relatively young. I think he's 31 as well. So you can sign him to a 5-year deal where you're not paying him at the age of 40, whatever, like they have to pay Robinson Cano. Outside of that, let me ask you guys this one. Where's JT Realmuto end up?
The Mets.
Really?
I think so.
You're gonna don't tell me you're gonna overpay for him because that's not a smart move right there.
I don't want him.
Okay.
I think the Mets end up paying big bucks for him, and I think it's a move that'll pay them dividends. A team that's been inconsistent at the catching position since their superstar catchers back in the day. I think that they go get JT Realmuto.
Hey, listen, I don't want him for one simple reason. He thinks he is, but he's not Mike Piazza. He's not going to hit 35. He's not going to do those things that get people $200 million, and that's what he wants. That's why Philadelphia hasn't re-signed him.
Would he help the Mets win games, and would he help the Mets become a team to the next level?
Would he help the Mets win games? Absolutely. But anybody other than Wilson Ramos will help the Mets win games. I like McCann.
I was just gonna say that if we had to lose him, you're gonna get a quality catcher and a guy who can hit.
And here's why. The Mets have enough at other positions offensively to make up for your catcher only hitting 260 with 15 bombs. They have Alonso, who in a full season we've seen hit over 50. They have Smith. They have Jimenez coming up. They have Jeff McNeil. They have Michael Conforto. So they have the pieces to make up for it. I don't want Realmuto because I think he thinks he's worth more money than what he actually is. So that's just me with that one.
Isn't that everyone now in baseball, though, kind of a little bit?
No, Trout got every dime he's worth.
That's a lot of money.
Listen, Artie Moreno's growing it somewhere because last question of the night. We're going into hot stove. We're going into a hot stove like we've never seen. My team is the one that all of a sudden has money because for the last 15 years, they haven't had a dime. If you had to pick one team besides the Mets to make a splashy move to kick this thing off, who is it?
What team?
Yes.
The Angels.
Oh, okay. Which team and which player?
Oh.
Stick with the Angels, but what do they go get?
They're going to go after Trevor Bauer.
Good move.
I think that's a good move. I think they need a pitcher for sure. Trevor Bauer is going to be a lot of money. I was going to say, I think Trevor Bauer might eventually, I think he might take his time. Another thing we learned lately is baseball free agents like to take their time a little bit. They don't kind of make up their minds right away. I could see Trevor Bauer being one of those guys. I think, hear me out, if the Mets spend money elsewhere and they can't bring back Marcus Stroman because they spend their money elsewhere, I think the Angels get Marcus Stroman. But I don't think that's my big splash. If I were to say a big splash in my prediction, it would be Trevor Bauer to the Dodgers. I think that's
whoa.
I think
that's not fair.
I think it's going to happen. I mean, there's just something tells me that Trevor Bauer wants to win a ring, and something tells me that the Dodgers, Kershaw, Bauer, and Bueller. I mean, wow.
Do they have the money for that though? I mean,
where don't I mean, I'm with you, Alex.
no, I get what you're saying though, but
I've wondered that question for every time they sign somebody. It's kind of like the Saints in football. They keep bringing people in. I'd like to know where the Dodgers are getting this money from, but hey, they'll probably give them 4 years, 120 million, and shut up for a little bit.
Gosh.
So hear me out. I think there's a bigger splash and a bigger move by a different team that no one's going to talk about. How about JT Realmuto to the New York Yankees? Yeah, I don't like it either. But no one likes Gary Sanchez.
I've heard that they're looking to move on from him, aren't they?
Well, yeah, because Stanton opted in. So they're not going to be able to pay him. So listen, the Yankees pitching, first of all, I think Tanaka's going to the Angels. I think that's the under-the-radar signing that people aren't going to pay attention to. Masahiro Tanaka to the Angels. You're going to stick him in the clubhouse with Shohei Ohtani. Plus, we don't know if Ohtani's going to be able to pitch next year. So now they address a need. But what the Yankees need more than anything is they need a catcher who can actually receive from this pitching staff because they got young guys coming behind Garrett Cole. But yeah, no, I think the big splash, no one's going to come out of left field, is JT Realmuto to the New York Yankees. And then they send Gary Sanchez somewhere where no one can see him again. Send him to Seattle, send him to, Texas for a bullpen arm.
Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's just mean.
How the mighty have fallen.
That's just mean.
I know.
I'm a Bulls fan. That word's evil to me.
Yeah, but I mean, Clint Hurdle ran that damn team to the ground. I've said it before. I'll say it again.
All right, boys. Well, listen, we've been doing this for over an hour because whenever we get together and we talk baseball, it just goes. So, Alex, we'll start with you. Where can we find Row 7 and what's coming up?
Well, I just dropped a podcast yesterday talking all about the Chicago Bears and how they're kind of in the middle of trying to figure out what's going on with the quarterback and dealing with COVID apparently as well, too. So new Row 7 podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Stitcher. You can find me on Twitter at Row 7 Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram as well at Row 7 Podcast. So definitely check me out.
Tone, what do you got coming up? Cardboard and Cracker Jacks and Buccateers for that matter?
We have a big announcement coming in Buccateers tomorrow, actually. So
Really?
be on the lookout for that. We got a little shakeup within the podcast itself. We're excited moving forward for the changes coming to the Buccateers. We're excited for those. Cardboard and Cracker Jacks, we kind of hit the pause a little bit. We're kind of working some things out. We're trying to do some things internally to get the show a little better. Not that it wasn't good, obviously. We thought it was some good quality content, but we're trying to get things better. So be on the lookout for Buccateers announcement tomorrow. You can find them on Apple, Spotify, Google, timeskew.com, and be on the lookout for Cardboard and Cracker Jacks on Twitter, specifically at Cracker Jacks Pod, Instagram at Cracker Jacks Pod. We'll probably have an announcement in the near future of what's happening over there.
Nice. And I got to tell you, I followed you on Spotify just this week, Alex. I've been listening, but I didn't click the follow button. I would see when you would tell me it would go out. I got to get into the Buccateers, especially because I love listening to the especially football, because there's only so much NFL I can do. I like listening to people who talk about their team, which is why I do. This week I got off because the Browns have a bye. But with Big Rican tomorrow night, 6:00, Big Rican Buckeye pregame. Sorry about last week, Tone.
Yeah, well, I was looking forward to maybe doing a post game, but there's no reason to do a post game to that. There's nothing for that. So yeah, hats off to you. Ohio State got the best of Penn State for sure.
So we got Buckeye pregame live tomorrow at 6 p.m. The 7:00 tilt against Rutgers, which I don't know why they're always a night game. I can just think Big Ten Network's trying to get the New York market, which great because I got Big Ten on my cable. I'll be watching my boys tomorrow night. Week off from Browns, of course, come back next week when we get to play the Houston Texans. But as I had said before, the 100th episode of Big Rican will be the biggest debate in sport today. Who is the GOAT? Michael, LeBron, or someone else? Actually, catch me next week on Cleveland Me. I'm gonna be
Wow.
on with the Bears next week.
There you go.
There you go.
I think they wanted someone old enough to remember when Andre the Giant got body slammed by Hulk Hogan on. So, but as always, Big Rican can be found here on both YouTube and Facebook, Spotify, Breaker, Anchor, Rocket, Pocket Cast, Radio Public. I hear your brother.
Melted, man. He loves Big Rican. We all love Rican, so he's
And all three of us are proud members of the Time Skew Podcast Network. Listen, if you got fantasy football needs or any kind of football needs, these guys are the ones to go to. And if you want baseball, come find us. We're going to be here. I will see you guys at the end of the hot stove season, just before spring training. Of course, I'll talk to you before then. But we will get together in the dead of winter and discuss baseball because there is nothing like our game. So we will see you very soon. I will see everybody tomorrow night for Buckeye pregame. Gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege as always. Thank you so much. And I will see everyone in the coming, well, actually, about 18